Okay.
Hello. All right, we're going, man. This is the beginning of our podcast.
This is your podcast. I'm just joining in now. Late to the game.
Yeah,
little
that's
late,
it.
little late to the
That's it.
game. Yeah.
All right, guys. Welcome back. What a time. We've taken some time off. We've kind of revamped the podcast a little bit, changed some things around. I think it's time. It's a new year. I've done this for, 2.5 years. It's been all about Rogan and his show. And now we're transgressing into, the end of days, for sure. I'm joined by my new partner, Jay. What's happening, brother?
What's going on? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing.
Nice.
It's a beautiful day here in L.A.
Right. Beautiful
Apart from-
snowy day here in Cleveland.
Is that right? Snowy?
Yeah. It was almost 70 yesterday, and today it's snowing. There's snow on the ground. Typical Cleveland spring, actually.
That's lovely. And now it's also the end of the world as well.
Right. End of days, waiting for the frogs to fall from the sky, and we'll get on with it.
I watched this really terrifying footage earlier. It was like drone footage of downtown LA, and it's just a ghost town. Like, there's a couple of cars, there's like a cop car and like maybe some like electrical van, but there's just nothing down there.
Well, I think the breaking news this morning, I mean, if we're just going to dive right into it,
Get into it.
Yeah. So the breaking news this morning is that they have adapted the way that they're going to approach the treatment of the virus in New York and LA. They're talking about, and it's funny because so much of the stuff that I've talked about, I don't pretend to be any kind of Nostradamus or anything, but stuff that I've seen coming, they're busting balls of this one congressman who sold his stocks out 3 weeks ago. I mean, anybody that probably knew anything just with the basic information in the news could have seen that this was coming. I know you and I were together for a week or two, and a lot of the stuff that I said, this is what's going to happen, happened. And one of the things that I've been talking about recently is this, it's just going to get to a point where containment is probably not an option. I've been saying this for over a week and a half, that we're just going to have to accept the fact that that this is going to spread, and we're going to have to work more on treatments and caring for the people that have it, because I think that's just an inevitability that this is going to spread. That's what they're talking about now in LA, is just not even testing people anymore unless the testing would somehow change the outcome of how they would react, as far as if there was something that they would do. I mean, the strange part is they came out last week and said they were going to test all these people in Cleveland at the clinic and UH, great hospital system here. And they said they were only going to test people that were critically ill, which to me didn't make a lot of logical sense. I mean, the person who's most likely to infect others is someone who's just mildly symptomatic or asymptomatic, right? Wouldn't you want to test those people? Because they're the ones that they should know, do I have this or do I not have it, so I won't go out and, spring break on the beach or whatever.
Right.
The people that are laying on their deathbed in the hospital, they're not going to contact that many people. I feel like it would be more important to know if the people that can go out and infect others have it. But, hey, I'm just a podcaster, and that's only been, I'm only 10 minutes into that job, so what do I know?
10 minutes in, yeah, what do you know? 4 minutes.
4 minutes,
yeah,
4 minutes.
It's a weird...
I don't even know how to count time, so.
That's it. It's a weird time, man. This is so crazy. And I think this is going to change things forever. Really. Like, not to... yeah, it is. Something this big is going to change things forever. Like, and the repercussions of this. We're talking, like, I work in a restaurant, and it's closed, right? And in fact, they are opening another restaurant. That's why they hired people for it. So I'm for the new restaurant. There's no fucking chance that they're opening that new restaurant. They're just not gonna. They're gonna have to cut back to keep the company alive. They're gonna have to fire everybody that they just took on. That's just the reality. It's gonna happen.
Well,
I would be amazed if they didn't do that.
I don't know if that's as big of a deal as... it's tough to say what's going to happen at all right now, really. I mean, everything is just projection and guessing, and I think that we're certainly going to see the thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. They had a breakout in China. They put in these very strict orders. The difference, we talked about this. We watched that show Chernobyl together, and how thank God that happened in communist Russia, where they could literally just order people to go take radioactive graphite off the roof for 90 seconds, and here's some rubles.
Right,
and thanks for your thanks for your
some
service.
rubles. Cheers.
Yeah.
Only
And,
31 people died.
right, the official count. Right. So it's the same thing here. Like in China, communist China, they can order you to go on the street, you get shot, whatever. Here they can't do that. But it's strange that the outbreak took 2.5 months. They've been reporting almost no new cases in China recently, and it doesn't make a lot of sense from the standpoint of, if 2 or 3 people can spread the virus to begin with, wouldn't you think that even after a 2 or 3 or 4 week quarantine or social distancing or whatever, that then it could just restart with 2 or 3 people? Logically, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And even I think there's something fishy about the fact that China goes from having all these cases to then having, in essence, none, according to their reporting. Either they can't be believed, or there's something else going on there that we don't understand, or they've found some kind of treatments or something that they're not letting us in on.
Yeah. Well, you made a good point, right? And, I don't know shit about this, but so let's say we quarantine everyone. It's all good. It's mostly gone. But then it's only going to take just a few people, and it all starts again, right?
That's what I would think.
Yeah. Why would it be any different than that? So what is the idea? Like, I think what they've said is, look, everyone's getting sick. Tough. It's going to happen.
Well, they haven't said that in the right circles. I mean, that's kind of what some of us logical folks have been saying for a while. But they haven't really said it. There's still this hope. And the other thing I heard a guy talking about the other day on the news was, like, once you get past 1% population infection, social distancing doesn't work. You have to go to full lockdown. And if that doesn't work, well, then you have to reassess. 1% would be, about 3 million people in the
like
U.S.?
3.5, yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking about, that not working anymore. And I think this goes back to 2 points. A point that you and I talked about that I made, early on in this thing, was watching people kind of face the reality of. Now, I think myself and a lot of other people, my dad died of cancer when he was 29. He got it when he was 26. He was super healthy, athlete, and just blindsided by brain cancer. And so for myself, I strangely enough, ironically enough, got a cancer diagnosis at 29 as well. And while I don't like to dive into it, because there's certainly a lot of people that have gone through a lot more than I have when it comes to illness, especially cancer illness and stuff. Mine was very cut and dry. But it does make you kind of look at your life and the world in a different perspective. This is a finite journey that we're on. At some point, the only thing that has 100% mortality rate is life. And it's funny to see all these people kind of facing that for the first time without even being diagnosed with the coronavirus or whatever, but just knowing, like, oh, maybe, and then they go down the logical path. Maybe I go out. Maybe I meet this person. Maybe this person sneezes on me. Now I start looking at my percentages. Oh, how old am I? What am I hearing in the news? And that's making them look at the fact that, hey, this journey doesn't last forever, which we fail to kind of evaluate in our conscious minds on a daily basis, is that at any point in time, this journey will end. And it's been very interesting to see how different people have handled this.
Do you think it's going to make people better planners? Are they going to be planning their future better because they're like, oh shit, we could all die at any minute?
I think it does the opposite. I think it makes you live more in the moment and just enjoy. I know certainly, and I've talked to a lot of other people that faced some kind of potential terminal illness diagnosis. The scariest part about a cancer diagnosis is always when there's 2 weeks or a month or whatever, when you go in and you get information, biopsies, whatever, but then it takes time for you to have that follow-up where they're going to actually give you some numbers that you can grasp. And certainly your mind just goes in every direction, and usually to the direction of worst case scenario when that happens. Like, my percentages are this and that, and I'm sure it's going to be this, and inevitably that's where our minds go. And so I think that's one of the things that changes you afterwards. And I've talked to a lot of other people that have gone down this path, is that you just start appreciating the moments. It really is a very grounding, centered experience once you can kind of find something to alleviate and set the anxiety aside. Especially for me, like once I got to the point where it looked like I was certainly in the clear for a lot of, at least more positive numbers and things. That time, that 6 months, year, it lasts a certain amount of time where you're just very grounded, very appreciative, very in the moment of your life. And so I think, go ahead.
Oh, do you think that's gonna be happening through like probably the world's greatest recession?
Well, I mean, that's, I think, a different, what are we going to do there? But I think more importantly, I think whenever we start to get to the other side of this, where there's certainly going to be, I've heard the numbers 18 months or whatever that we have to go through all this, probably before we have some kind of, usable treatments, vaccines, whatever. But whenever that light starts to shine at the end of the tunnel of this thing, I think that's when you'll see, it's going to be very interesting to see when people can actually go out and enjoy the things and live life fairly, somewhat normally, the feelings that people will have. I think it'll be a lot like that I was talking about after dealing with an illness. And then there's just like, I don't even want to say like it's going to be a giant party. I think people are just going to be much more grounded and appreciative of all the things that they are now able to do.
Oh, I gotcha.
I think that'll be the key. I think the other thing... Go ahead.
Doesn't everybody actually have to get this, though, eventually? Or at least see if they can... I mean, you can't hide from this forever. This is going to be out there unless you just stay quarantined for your whole life. So at some point, you have to go out and face this, and hopefully you don't die of it. Right?
Well... Yeah, I think the reality that we're going to have to get to is that just accepting the fact that people are going to die, people are going to get sick, and there's not a lot that we can do about it, because what's the inevitability? Otherwise, if this continues more than a couple of months worldwide, domestically, we're going to be in the worst depression that this country's probably ever seen, maybe even worse than 29. There's a lot more people that are going to die from the consequences of that than are going to die from this virus. Even if it ends up killing 3 or 4 million, there'll probably double that die from other problems, whether it's monetary or medical or dangerous. There's a ton of stuff that's going to happen if we don't. So I think there's going to reach a point where we have to weigh the other side, which is, do we just have to try to go out and live our lives and understand? And this is where, we were talking the other day about, I mean, we've been living in reverse Darwinism for like 100 years, right? Taking care of the old, the sick, people that would have just fallen off, survival of the fittest. And now it's, we've been living, and that's the funny thing about this virus, is that it's kind of like, you could call it the Darwin virus, right? I mean, it's going to get people that are either old and living much longer than they would have previously. It's going to get people that are sick, people that have made poor decisions about their life and their health. And I think it's Darwinism of the system, like starting to realize that the system is broken, that the people are making bad choices individually. I mean, look at it. This is my, I have family members, very close family members, loved ones that are 70 plus, 80 plus. Like, that's just going to be the reality of it. And then I have a lot of people that are friends that are sick or overweight or smoked or did that. Like those are the people that are, well, who made those choices? Those people did, you know?
Right.
Those people made those choices. They're the ones that are susceptible. Now that Darwin virus is coming for you, man. Like, I give you the perfect example. And as we dive deeper into this podcast, you know me well, obviously. A lot of my strange ideas about, you know, life and health and... Hold on one second.
Dude, you can't be pausing in a podcast, all right? This is serious business.
Oh, yeah, well, this is my first one, bro. I'm a rookie here. It's like, be gentle, right? It's my first time.
All right, get your thought back so I can go in the kitchen and get some more coffee.
Go get some coffee. Go get some. I got to figure out this energy saver. It just turned me off because my, you know, it says put the hard drives to sleep. All of a sudden, everything just turned off.
You got to move the mouse. Move the mouse every now and again. Come on, Grandpa. This is Darwinism in itself. But you say Darwinism, but isn't that like how every disease works? It just kills all the old and the sick people. That's how it works.
Well, yeah, but no, think about it. Okay,
kids,
so
like this doesn't kill the kids.
So swine flu supposedly kills 60%, Ebola 90%. That's not Darwinism, okay? That's just kills everybody. But this one, now there's going to be outliers, okay? There's going to be maybe me. You know, I try to eat well, exercise every day. I'm not overweight. I have no health conditions, no high blood pressure, no whatever. So I could be in that mix, right? You could be in that mix. There's always going to be collateral damage to something like this where people that aren't control. I like to go back to use my dad as an example. Yeah, they say that 70% of cancer is, and this isn't just some crazy hippie number. This is by the Medical Association. 70% of cancers are preventable by diet and lifestyle changes. Now, 30% are not, right? Genes, exposure to certain things that you don't have control over, blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be people that... Chernobyl happens. Yeah. So you have the anomalies in the set, but the majority of people that are going to get this and die from it are the ones that made poor decisions. And here's an example I like to give. The other day I'm sitting there, I'm on social media, and I see, so if you remember from when you lived here, there's a place called Mitchell's Ice Cream. Okay, they have about 30 locations or so. And they said, oh, we have to shut our doors. We decided to close up, but we're running today, our last day open, we're running a 30% off sale on pints of ice cream. Okay, and this was like last week when they announced, like, you know, try social distancing, whatever. Now, here's Darwinism, bro. 3 hours later, they posted on their social media that they're sold out of pints. So what does that tell you? That tells you everybody saw that, and all these idiots went running to the same store at the same time, interacting with each other when they were just told to stay apart from each other, buying pints of ice cream. Okay, so first of all, Darwinism of stupidity, right? You just got told to stay away from each other, and you all went running for pints of ice cream because that's super important, especially half off. I mean, you saved like $8.
Super important, bro.
Yeah,
$8. That could go a long way.
$8 probably. Yeah, for sure. So they saved $8 or whatever to get a couple of pints. And then here's the funny part. So you're talking about COVID-19, I mean, is a virus that's supposedly attacking the lungs, respiratory system, causing some pneumonia. That's why people are getting sick or dying. Well, this isn't just crazy hippie stuff. Even a regular medical doctor will tell you, like, you want to avoid dairy when you have any kind of respiratory issues going on, because it does cause your body to produce more mucus. Okay, I won't even get into all the other reasons why I think dairy is bad for you, but that's just a very common knowledge. Dairy causes you to produce mucus, which will not help, obviously, in time of respiratory distress. Okay, so their second problem with this whole scenario. They go out and they buy ice cream, which causes them to weaken their lungs, which COVID-19 attacks. And then the third part is, what else is ice cream filled with? Sugar.
Oh, right? I was going to say happiness.
Oh, well, yeah, and happiness. But it's filled with sugar, bro. And sugar lowers your immune system, right? So you had all these idiots running out, ignoring social distancing, eating dairy, which weakens their lungs, and then eating sugar, which lowers their immune system. There it is. I mean, that's just, to me, that was the most perfect example of what's going on right now and why I this is like the Darwin virus. It's just going to get rid of people. You've been smoking for 30 years? Dude, it's coming for you, right? You overweight, you eat all kinds of crap, you're fat, you don't work out. Dude, it's coming for you, bro. It's coming for you.
Yeah, you're not in a good place. Or you haven't saved your money. Let's say you did all that shit, right, but you don't have any money. You're going to be fucked.
But you don't have any money.
You're going to be...
Oh, we were talking about this the other day. 75% of the working class in America, right? 75% of the working class in America has no savings. None. Now, I might not be the best guy to speak of this, but certainly I could spend through all of my money and savings like that. I'd love to have a wakeboard boat and another, jet surf, an electric one. I mean, there's all kinds of shit I could blow my money on, bro. I would love to. Yeah, jetpack. I'd love to have a jetpack. I mean, whatever money you make, you can certainly spend it all. And so I understand, 35-year-old husband, wife, 2 kids, whatever, paycheck to paycheck, certainly a difficult situation. But I know a lot of mid-20-year-olds that are successful in jobs. The economy's been booming these years. There's a lot of good jobs for 20 to 30-year-olds. And what are they? They're out every Friday. They're out every Saturday. They're drinking. They're boozing. They have a big bar tab, a big dinner tab. They're cooking hardly any meals at home. And saving nothing. Even if they could skip one night of that a week and save $100, you'd be in a much better place right now. Now that everybody wants, where am I going to get my next paycheck? And the government's going to have to send it to me. Well, certainly there's a lot of people there that probably, didn't have a choice. But there's a hell of a lot of them that just didn't save anything and overspent their means to the max for year after year with no savings. So it's Darwinism of, savings stupidity. And lifestyle stupidity. You're not, you have no savings now, and you're wondering how you're going to make ends meet when, I got a friend of ours who me mate Dave, as Ali G would say. We'll just call him me mate Dave, right?
Definitely talking about Bell
Yeah.
Soul.
Okay, yeah, so me mate Bell Soul always like, oh, dude, you got this and that. I said, man, I got tons of friends and I have tons of people that I know that have so much more than me. It's totally asinine for me to compare myself to anybody else and what they have. What are you doing in your box to do the best version of yourself in that box? That's it. And whether that includes being able to save $10 or $100 or $1,000 a month or not overspend your means or your savings or whatever for an emergency. I mean, the main thing I think is that it's been generations, really. The government bailed us out in 2008. I mean, I can remember being a young kid when there was recession problems and but I don't have very many memories of it. It's more probably just things that I heard and remembered when there was a lot. And of course, I think the closest thing that our generation has is probably a potential fallout of a Cold War turning into a real war. But that actually never happened. That fear kind of kept some of us thinking about the future and planning a little bit about in case something really went off the rails with Russia or whatever. But it never happened. So the majority of these people living the last 25 years, the idea of the world actually crumbling is foreign and probably unbelievable to most of them. Right?
Well, that's the problem, I think, is and to kind of get back on track of what you're saying, is it's just soft times. These are soft times, It's like that thing that Rogan says. Joe Rogan says that tough times make tough men make soft times, or easy times make soft men, and fucking soft men are pussies, and that's what we got. We got a bunch of people.
Is that exactly how that went?
Close.
All right, yeah. Because I couldn't make heads or tails.
Let me try that again. Let me try it. It's basically like this.
Go again. Yeah.
Hard times make hard men. Hard men make easy times. Easy times make soft men. And then that's what it is. So something bad happens, like a war. Everyone has to step up and be badass. Those badass people calm that shit down. Then it's easy. And the easy times make the people that have been born over the last fucking 30 years. Like, sure, we've had some scuffles and wars, and the world in certain spots has had some really awful times. But it's not really. It's like we went through both the fucking Iraq wars, and you didn't feel it a ton, you know, if you like stayed in mainland U.S.
Well,
like,
no,
you don't know
I don't think
happening.
you've.
It's like it's fine.
As Americans, as Brits, as whatever, we haven't seen really no work, no. I mean, this could get to the point where money doesn't mean much. Okay, that's the biggest fear. Where money doesn't mean much. Guns and butter, right? Econ 101. Guns and
what
butter.
Does that mean?
Like when we're well, it's a analogy for, you know, kind of valuation of things beyond money at its most basic terms. Guns and butter, like food and protection, food and shelter, whatever you want to call it. In you know, Econ 101, they talk about guns and butter. That when all hell breaks loose, how are we going to value
it's
things?
like the most basic level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like food and shelter.
Yes.
You know, that's it.
Yeah.
And then everything else till you're self-actualized.
Well, I went right after college. I went to on a 9-month backpacking trip through Europe, and I actually went to see my mom's friend that she had met at a teacher conference, who now lived in Moscow. Okay, and this was around 2001, so there was still a lot. Russia was just coming out of itself, really. Okay, and obviously there was a lot of capitalism taking hold there, but the people had gone through a really tough time from the late 80s until that period, and inflation had gone so high that, you know, she said we had saved all this money, and we went from the money that we had in the bank one day could buy a car, and the next day it couldn't buy a loaf of bread. In one day. So my point is that this country and the people here have never been through something like that, nor have they been able to even fathom something like that, or seen firsthand what that creates. And I think that's where, I don't know if that's where we're going to get to through this problem, but we're certainly going to be in a place that most people of the last 25 years have never seen or even fathomed as a possibility.
It's going to be worse than it's ever been, right? For sure. There's no way around it.
I would say yes.
It's going to be worse than it's ever been. Now, in the U.S., after the Great Depression of 1930, whenever that was, December fucking
29, and lasted.
When that happened, didn't money completely shit the bed then too?
More so in 29, from my understanding, it was kind of a bit of cash was king thing. We haven't really seen, because the dollar's been the standard for the world for so long.
We haven't had a crazy
and our economy
issue.
We haven't had a crazy. I mean, the worst that I know of, just off the top of my head, I know there was a lot of inflation issues in the 70s and 80s. That's why, like, when I was a kid, you put your money in the bank because you got. You could get like CDs or something that were like 10%. I don't know if that number's right, but it was certainly more than the 0.1% they give you now. But that's because the base rate from the Fed was high because of inflation concerns. And I think it was, there was a time when inflation in this country was, we could obviously look it up. I mean, if we're going to do a really solid job of podcasting here, bro, we need to.
We worry about that next
time.
The
computer
this
up.
Is just the end of the world.
Well,
right
yeah.
Spitballs
right.
Shit.
I mean, because there's nobody better at making up numbers than I.
We'll fact check it later. You know what we should just call this? The completely fake news podcast. And then no one can ever get mad at us. And if anyone's like, that's just all bullshit, be like, yes, exactly our point. It's exactly true.
Yeah. Yeah, my ex used to call it Jayism, or what else did she say? J statistics or numbers. Yeah, I'm
This is just a
perfect at making
guide
up.
for
Yeah,
people
and
dumber than
I would
us.
imagine that most of them are pretty close to being correct. I mean, how right have I been about this virus outbreak? I said back in January, get the hell out of the stock market, right? And now they're hitting up congressmen for doing it when it was obvious what was going to happen to me anyway. And then I said, when you were here visiting, I said just wait until the first famous person
Tom
gets
Hanks.
this. Gonna wreck the market again. No, the first famous person that got it, that everything, all hell broke loose, was when the NBA guy got it, and they closed the game and canceled postponed the season in the middle, right before the game started. The stock market tanked the next day, I think, down 3,000 points or something. And it was funny because I talked to my dad. Then a week later, the market went down. Market went up 2,000 in a day, and I talked to my dad. I said, I think that's just a false bounce. I wouldn't be surprised if the market goes down 3,000 points tomorrow. And sure enough, it went down 2,999. I missed my prediction by $1. But I don't know. A lot of this stuff seems obvious that that's where we're going to go with this. I think there are some unknowns now, obviously. Hey, can I ask you a quick question? Since this is my first podcast. What do you do when you have to pee?
You tell me that you got to go pee, and then I continue like a long story, and then.
Okay.
But here's
this
the
is
thing,
the time
if you
for
keep your
that.
headset
Okay.
in, you'll hear me talking, and you'll want
Yeah.
to like reply, but you're not by the mic. So just shut up and get on with your peeing.
What if I take the mic?
What? No, it doesn't make sense. It's
that
plugged
won't
into the
work well.
computer. Just go pee. Don't worry about that. I'll take over from here.
Okay. All right.
I
Yeah,
will.
come up with
I'm
a
gonna
story,
talk-
will you? Something interesting. None of this. I want none of this half-ass stuff that you're doing. I want
Jesus,
the Adam
you
that
won't
I know.
shut the fuck
crazy.
up, so it's like.
All right,
All
do
right,
your thing.
gotcha.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is weird times. Weird times. Now, I've known my buddy here, Jay, for about 17 years. When I was living in Cleveland in I think I was like 23. I met him then. He's an oddball, for sure. Loves to preach as well. But he has some great insight and some funny-ass stories. And he's a huge hippie, crystal type, woo-woo science dude. Not a flat earther, but, I mean, there's some conspiracy theories in there which are gonna come out. He can't stop himself. So, yeah. And we're probably going to talk quite a bit about the market as well. He knows a lot about that. He deals with it all day. So maybe there's some good insights that you nerds can pick up on. I don't know anything about that shit, so it probably won't be a bad idea.
About what shit? I'm back. It was just a number
Okay,
one.
great.
It was
No,
just a number
about
one.
the market.
Okay.
I think that it wouldn't hurt. Like, look, these things need to have some value, and it probably would be a good idea to throw down some market knowledge in between the nonsense stories. You're always watching this every day, so why not talk about what's happening week to week and how it affects us? I mean, over the coming this should just be the coronavirus podcast moving forward, because this is
That's terrible. What are we gonna?
No,
what are we
shut
gonna
up.
do when it's
not about
over?
that. We don't name it that. I just mean that from this happening, society, our culture, the market, everything's going to change now for the next God knows how long, 3 or 4 years. So maybe longer.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to cover in our own silly way. I mean,
Well, we got to talk about more than
I don't mean that. We're going to
coronavirus. We
talk
gotta
about what
so
is
much other.
like how this is changing things. Like,
What about? I listened to a guy yesterday who dealt with. He's in his 70s. I don't know if he dealt with one of the big outbreaks back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I don't know what it was. Measles, polio, whatever. I don't know. But he was saying that we're going to have to get to the point where there's so much testing that regular people, healthcare workers, dentists, people that come into contact with others on a frequent basis will get like wristbands that they've either already had it and beaten it, right? So they're resistant to it because they haven't seen much evidence that you can be reinfected. You get a wristband that you wear all the time that shows that you're, in essence, it's like the old Dr. Seuss, who's got the stars on their bellies and who doesn't, right? So you're going to wear a wristband that says, I have this, or I'm cleared from this, or I've had the vaccine once they have the vaccine available, because I think it's an inevitability, but it might take 12 to 14, 16, 18 months, they're saying, potentially to have any kind of vaccine. There's a lot of interesting work being done, a lot of different companies. One here actually in Ohio, that one that's on that Netflix Pandemic, the curly-haired guy, that researcher that's doing stuff with an overall generalized flu vaccine that's adaptable to all different strains. A lot of interesting stuff. And I think, look, what are human beings best at? Adaptation, and when we are absolutely forced to make a change based on an immediate threat, and kind of mobilizing our forces and our knowledge, our money, our whatever, towards something. I think it'll be amazing to see what we're able to accomplish over the next 6 to 12 months as we face, if we don't get this sorted out, it's going to be a total disaster for years and years and years. So it's going to be interesting to see what we can actually accomplish when we have.
He's saying that, what was the old guy saying? That you'll have to wear a wristband that says you had it?
Yeah, you have to wear like wristband to say you have it, or you've had the vaccine, or, so that people feel confident about you. Because certainly, I mean, look, I think about myself. I'm not just gonna go if they say, oh, the numbers have died down like they have in China 2 months, a month and a half from now. Are you just gonna go out and interact with people in society the way that you do now? No, or did before? No, of course not. Like, we're gonna be trepidatious and scared for a while. As who has what, how am I going to get it, am I not going to get it, whatever. And I think that is going to change the psyche of a lot of people for an extended period of time, because I know we're just not going to go back to how we were before. Let's figure out what we're going to name this thing.
Rants and rants and rants and rants. That's what we call it.
Well, you got to understand, this is my first one, so
yeah, this is
I'm
great.
very excited. I'm very excited. I've been waiting to do this for years. I don't know why. I guess I needed to be locked inside with nowhere to go.
Well, but that's another thing. Like, when I say that we track what's happening, we're not talking about coronavirus. We're talking about how this changes things. Like, already we're going to find out some very interesting things about human behavior just based on the fact that no one can fucking go anywhere. Another thing that I think is going to be really fascinating is there's no pollution. Like, there's no pollution over Italy.
Right.
The fucking, was it you that was talking about how the Venice canals are like completely cleaned? Like, they've completely cleaned up. Like, they're not cloudy in the water. There's fish. There's fucking dolphins swimming up there. They haven't seen dolphins up there for like 100 years. It's like shit is changing. And we're going to get to see the effects on the planet of what it's like for no pollution for short periods of time. There's like almost no pollution over China either. Like,
yeah, it certainly was that they showed the radar of it. It was, or whatever, however they measure it. It was.
We've never been
minimal.
able. Well, it's just heat. It's just thermal. Like, that's all they're doing is seeing what heat gets trapped in there. But we've never been able to run those simulations before because we've just constantly been pumping this shit out. And now we get to see, oh fuck, when none of that happens, look at what goes on. So it's not just the market in China where they had the fucking badgers by the otters with a lizard on top all smushed together while some idiot eats a bat. It's not just about what happened there, but it's also like the social responsibility. It's like, we can't fucking have markets like this because it could lead to something that kills the whole world. Also, maybe don't have all these goddamn factories all the time pumping out this shit. Yeah, we want cheap stuff and we want to make things. I'm all for that, but let's find a different way to do it. Let's have a fucking Tesla electric factory instead of some fucking, gas guzzling coal one. It's, well, right. I don't know. I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about how you can change it, but it's just the fact that we'll get to see now what happens when certain systems stop working the way that they have been and what the effects are. And then we're like, oh shit, we also could survive that. And that was actually not the worst.
You know what else we're going to learn from this? I'll tell you what else we're going to learn from this. We're going to learn a lot of different things. As far as human differences that probably could have or should have been made over the last, 20, 30 years. I'll give you an example. I wrote a couple of these down. Well, one thing that I found very interesting on a side note was that, as we have this toilet paper crisis, I realized that you actually don't need more than a square to wipe.
I just take a shit and then get in the shower. I don't know if anyone else is doing that. But how many shits do you take a day?
Waffle stomp.
Like, if you're taking more than 2, you better ask. Well, but you can take 2 showers. A day,
I'm 2.
Right? So.
But I'm a vegetarian, so.
Well, I'll take a longer shower.
Yeah.
just Dude, corn.
Mine
just
are
corn
solid,
everywhere.
bro. They're solid.
Blocking up the.
No. Here's the other point that I was going to make. So I think what's for sure is going to happen is a lot of the younger progressive companies that had younger employees that were allowing them either to work more mobily or have a little bit more of a flexible schedule, and we're seeing a lot more productivity from that type of work style rather than the old guard saying, hey, you got to be in the office from 8 to 5 and punch the clock, right? Well, now they don't have a choice. A lot of these companies are forced people to move to mobile work, home/office work, keeping numbers down in the office. I think what we're certainly going to see is that's gonna carry over because we're gonna see. I mean, right now it's tough to tell because there's a lot of things that aren't even working at all or producing or consuming. So, but getting more people to work in a more relaxed schedule that can help to lead to their productivity. I think, there's a lot of the workforce under the age of 40 that doesn't have an issue working at night, doesn't have an issue working on the weekend, doesn't have an issue working these different times, but on their own schedule. That's what a lot of these progressive companies are allowing them to do. And I think this is going to kind of show that works. And that, we don't need to be as connected physically all the time or in an office all the time as we once were. And I think the other thing that's interesting, and trust me, I mean, you'll vouch for this. I mean, there's probably no bigger sports fan as far as every sport all the time, knowing all the stats, knowing all the histories. I mean, I go back stuff 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, growing up, talking, my dad's the same way. And when I say my dad, I know I referenced it earlier. So after my dad died when I was 4, his brother adopted me. And he's been my dad ever since. So if I reference my dad, it's usually talking about him. He's the same way. And we've played all the sports: golf, tennis, baseball, basketball. I still, now, well, obviously not right now, but even yesterday, I found a way to get out and do some stuff. So, we've played it all. We've watched it all. I very rarely miss any of the big events throughout the year and any of the sports, watching them. And so now to be left with nothing, even for someone like me, makes you realize that it's just not quite as big of a deal as you thought it was. I mean, I haven't watched much. They've been doing a lot of replays. I will say I did watch the replay of the 2018 Women's College Basketball Championship last night, which was in Columbus. I was actually at the game. My dad's a Notre Dame alum. So I was at that game in 2018 in Columbus. It was a wild game that they were down by 17 or 13 at the half and found a way to come back and win it. And it was fun because I had never watched the broadcast, but I was at the game. And so I just think certainly in the moments when it's there, we think how much this means to us. And now it's like there's so many people that are here thinking like, okay, let's contemplate what else. Maybe I've been putting too much thought and energy and effort into these sports that I'm just watching.
Me, I'm the complete opposite of you. I barely know who fucking what's his name is, Tom Brady. I mean, I couldn't know less about sports. And to me, my whole life, I've always just seen it as like this, it's a distraction. It's all nonsense. They just repeat it every year. It has no value. I've never understood how humans are so fucking into that shit. I've always felt like such a weirdo. I'm like, why do I not give a shit about this thing? It doesn't even look like a real job. I mean, sure, the pay is amazing, but I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're just running around playing. And then it disappears, and now look. Yeah.
And I'm the opposite.
Notice it's nonsense.
I'm the opposite.
So
I was the live and die.
Wake up, fucking idiot.
Finally, the only people that I knew that thought it was nonsense were you and me mate Belsol. Yeah, but that's just because I don't like ball sports. They're boys playing with balls. That's because you suck at them, bro.
I mean, I never played it.
But whatever.
It just didn't make any sense to me. It's like, whatever. Actually, that's not true. I did play. I played soccer. I played football. Yeah,
you played football. Yeah, you were one of the few British guys
rugby,
I know that played
cricket. I wasn't bad.
Football.
It just was like it was fun it was way more fun to play than it was to watch. I never understood watching it. I'm like, what are we doing? We're just watching other people play this. It's silly. But
yeah. I mean, that was me. It was either if I wasn't playing them, I was watching them and consuming them and talking about them. I imagine we're not going to talk, which is probably a good barrier for me because like I could have just busted in and talked about the entire 2018 season for Notre Dame women's basketball.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Trust
Even
me,
the
if I know about
women's on that team,
women's college basketball,
I promise.
Dude, if I'm I could talk about that and the 2019 Notre Dame women's team, which, by the way, was the only time they lost in the championship game. They were an amazingly talented team. The only time that all 5 starting players from the championship game were drafted in the first round in men's or women's basketball. All 5 players drafted. Amazing. So my point is I could talk about that. So obviously if I can talk about women's college basketball for an extended period of time, I could certainly talk about hockey. I got it.
You know a lot about sports, but what we've learned is it's nonsense.
Yes,
so we don't need to.
It's nonsense. Well, I still won't agree with that, but I know that having you as my partner in this podcast now is going to limit my ability to do what I would normally naturally want to do, which is
if it's important enough, we can bring it up. But I don't think women's fucking college basketball is important to anyone. If it's like, who gives a shit?
From 2 years ago. From 2 years ago. And it brings me to one of my favorite jokes. Would you rather find 4 front row floor tickets to the WNBA finals or $10 on the ground?
I don't know. What is it? The joke is just that you will take $10. Oh, I got it.
The joke is the question. Yeah, you'd probably rather have the $10, wouldn't you, Adam? Yeah,
but it could be the actual NBA finals. I'd take $10.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could be the
You'd
fucking
still take $10.
Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I'm like, I've got to go across town. They're like, this is the Super Bowl. I don't know. Traffic is going to be a nightmare. Those hot dogs are
I have my jiu-jitsu class.
Yeah, well, but what are you saying here, right? So you're saying that because of this, they've taken the sports off. We've noticed something. We've noticed that things aren't what we thought. And I think that's the progression that we're going to see. We're going to see that a lot of things are changing. People have to adjust. Yeah. People are going to be turning to things for answers or just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, there's a new generation now that has to step into this world. Like, this is what we forget. Like, every year someone else turns 21, right? There's a whole nother group. So these are like the new adults that are like, fuck, what kind of mess have we just inherited? And where the fuck do we go for answers? This is why everyone listens to the Rogan podcast, because they're like, please, God, tell me something. So in a way, it's like, well, we've either got an option. We can distract people with nonsense like sports, which we probably will have to do. And I don't mean we will talk about sports. I just mean we will be as nonsense as sports for people. We can just be a distraction that people log in and listen to us and they laugh. Or we can have some insight, I mean, we're basically 40. You're in your 40s. I feel like I am. So, we know some shit. And, but at least, if anything, we have a perspective on it. and it'd be like a no nonsense kind of, just try not to make these same fucking mistakes over and over, young people, because our generation fucked it up, and I think the generation before us didn't do a great job either. I mean, stuff works, we got technology, but come on.
So we're trying, dude, because trust me, I do not see myself I do see myself as wise, but I certainly don't see myself as an old wise man trying to give young people advice on how to live life. That sounds even older. So we do need to come up with not only a theme of what this is going to be, but also a name. I think we need to get back to the name ideas. What was the one that I had yesterday? Make America Great
bro.
Britain again.
That one,
bro. Yeah, bro. Make America Great Britain again.
But it's so
bro.
loaded.
It hits everything.
It's
And you're
like
British.
Making a
I'm American.
That, there's an English person on this, and I don't want to fucking make America Great Britain ever. So that doesn't even make any sense. Yeah, I fucking left.
Yeah, you came here for a reason. Confusing. Yeah, you came here.
It's catchy, but it's very confusing, and it's also like.
And when you put the bro at the end, then you know why. You get because that's kind of how I talk, bro.
Too,
dude,
it doesn't. Man. It's just gonna make it. It's gonna confuse the shit out of people for sure. I guarantee it. It needs to be super simple.
Okay, well, what ideas do you have? Yeah,
it depends what our focus of talking is. What we get into. Like, remember, we're not switching guests out, so all the value is in just us speaking. So we have to either be silly and entertaining while reflecting on news things, and occasionally come out with a little soundbite of like, look, we're not telling anyone how to live. I don't think that's what Rogan planned on doing either. But he has sense that he speaks, and people have picked up on it over time, and it's become like a responsibility of his, which he tries not to take too seriously, because if he says it a lot, if he gets in his own head, if he thinks about how many people are listening, it fucks up his own message, because he changes, puts pressure on him. So he just tries to be him. And if he has advice, he's going to spew it out. I mean, he was younger than you when he started his podcast. So don't underestimate, any useful knowledge that you have. I mean, fuck me. You were getting preachy as fuck about the corona outbreak, and what do you really know about that? Nothing. So exactly. So don't worry about actually saying something that's like good advice that you do know about, right? You got plenty of that,
Right. Well, I say that normally our regular banter conversations, we've gotten into them better here towards the end, but that's true. But I think also too, obviously people don't know a lot about me from this. This is the first time I've been on this, but I was in LA for off and on for 12 years trying to be an actor. And that's the other thing too. You get in your head as an actor, and you're done. The game's over. You just have to learn how to block everything out and just be, and let things flow, and interact and feel with the things around you, which is the same thing that I've noticed just in the first 45 minutes of this first podcast with you is, just learning how to be present. Stella Adler, one of the great actresses and acting coaches, said that becoming a better actor is becoming a better human being. And I think that that's true. Probably becoming a better podcaster or whatever is just, not getting in your head and thinking that anything has to be a certain way, or you have to get something across in a certain way, or you have to feel or emote things in a certain way, or get them across to the audience, and just being there. And really the key, the lovely thing about the practice in this between just the two of us is, when you work on acting work, it's a lot about listening and reacting to your partner, rather than just like, which is what we do in real life. Goes back to that becoming a better actor is becoming a better human being, is like listening and not just thinking about what I'm going to say next, right? Listening to your partnership.
Yeah, I mean, you've defined some things, but I say forget all that and just, it's none of that really is. Like, yeah, that would be great for like a podcasting self-help book, but all we're doing is just talking to each other. That's it. We're just chatting like we usually do, and forget that you're talking into a mic and the computer's on. Just talk like we do, and then, people will listen or they won't. It's like, we're not getting paid for this anyway, so fuck it. But you do learn a lot about yourself. You learn if you're a good listener. You learn better ways to listen. In a sense, you've got to be somewhat responsible for what you say. And not that you need a lot of feedback to find out that you say some fucked up shit, but you'll notice that you do. You're like, ooh, whoa. You're like more responsible for your speech. And that's a good thing, because people aren't usually responsible for their speech. They think that they can just talk however they want. And I think that people don't even represent themselves to themselves like they would want to. I think that they just say things and they're like, oh shit, I'm that guy. Yeah. It takes someone to be like, you're fucking racist, bro, or you're sexist. Yeah. And you're like, fuck, I guess so. Whoops, my bad. You know, it's good to have a bit of reflection.
Yeah, I certainly don't have any filter in my normal everyday. Sure,
yeah. I mean, you might find out that you're like,
I could qualify as any and all those things. All of a
sudden, you find out that you're like fucking alt-right. You're like, whoa, how did I get that far? But you've just been, you were just ranting about something that you've been thinking about, and you're like, okay, I got to be a bit more careful with my thoughts here. That's what's nice about it. Well, look, we're gonna do it once a week. You've got an entire week to think of things. You'll come up with categories, or you write shit down. We're kind of piece together ideas, of what direction we're gonna go in. To be honest, I don't know if this one is usable at all. Probably not. But it's a good start, right? The reason this one is a difficult one, because we're trying to capture people, and I have to transition the fucking thing. And this is going to get very confusing if for people listening, if we just throw this down. But if we have a little bit more structure when we do the next one, and we've had time to practice, I'll still edit this together, and like we keep this as our first conversation. Who knows? Maybe we'll throw it out one day once all the structure's put together. We can be like, yeah, we're busy this week. We can't do a podcast. Here's your fucking podcast of the week. It's the first one we ever did. It's a mess. Enjoy. Okay. No, it might not be. Maybe we'll do it.
So all this was for nothing. Is what
this
you're
is
saying.
Practice, bro. We got to do something. We were gonna talk today anyway. What the fuck did you have to do today? We're quarantined.
Practice. We're talking about practice, not a game.
Well, whatever.
Not a game,
this is
practice.
something. We had to.
I could have been doing something else.
We didn't know. I didn't know how this. I mean, what are you talking about? Jacking off the whole time.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, that's what that break was.
It's doing great.
Yeah.
Sticky.
Yeah. How's your keyboard?
I wish I had more toilet paper.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Right. Well, one
impressive.
square works for most things, I've learned.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
So you're on, right? You're on.
But honestly,
what kind of direction do you like? You've said that for a long time, right? You've been thinking about a podcast. What did you want to? If you could talk about anything, what do you want to talk about?
Well, there's always different things. I mean, the thing that and my friend Dawn in LA has been bothering me for years. You should have a podcast, or you should do this, because I like talking about everything. Religion, politics, science, culture, obviously sports. But, and that's the thing that I don't like about, we'll do it every once a week for an hour at this particular time. I mean, I think it's great. And you have that real, authentic passion about a subject that you're just talking off the cusp about something when it hits you. A lot of times, like a lot of these things that we had been thinking about all week and then talking about today, they seem a bit forced because you've been thinking about them all week. It'd be great if we could just be like, boom, now let's do this now.
Dude,
I have these ideas.
People have jobs.
Let's see where it goes. And if they're trash, they're trash.
I'll be working. I can't just like do a podcast at any time of the day. Like, it doesn't work like that. Well, yeah, maybe.
Well, now you can,
for a couple of weeks, I guess. But what does that mean? Like, you just get inspired and you're having like a bit
this
of a
guy
manic...
is a very we can't talk over best case scenario.
But you have like a little manic moment where you have this idea and then boom, we've got to do a podcast on it. Okay. All right. I
Fucking
think
right.
that
Love
I
it.
don't think that that's
Yeah.
going to be the best
Yeah.
strategy for running a podcast, because then we're relying on these moments of inspiration, and when you don't have them, they definitely will sound forced. I think it would be better to practice just making sense of what you've been thinking about in some sort of summary on a scheduled time once a week. That's pretty much how the world does things. Right?
And you know,
Well,
I'm big.
you
I'm
don't
big on
have to,
following
but
how
I
the
don't-
world does
It
things.
just, from my experience, and what do I know? I've only done 3 podcasts for well over 2 years, and I think I'm like 250 podcasts in, and definitely 1,000 hours. What do I know? But it's hard to get things to be
Yeah.
consistent. That
There it is. There's the name. There's
do
the
I
name.
know? Yeah.
There's the name of the podcast. What do I know?
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
let's do that. There
perfect.
probably is a what do
That's
I know.
it.
Let me look it up. Let's see. But okay, so saying that, all right. So let's just go with what you said then. So randomly, whenever you get inspired on a thing, we're going to talk about it. What motivates that thing? And then are you coming at it from the point of like a knowledgeable, like why is anyone going to listen to it? Like what is like people have to take time out of their day to like listen to you ramble about your exciting moment that you just thought of?
Well, I think the bigger issue is that most people just want to listen
About
to podcasts
murders?
about like murders.
That's true, they do. Yeah, they love
Yeah.
those.
Isn't that kind of true?
Should we talk
They
about
love
murders
those.
as well
Yeah.
then?
Yep. Well, maybe I'll just murder you.
This would be like I killed Adam.
I'll just talk about it. Yeah. And I'll just talk about that. I don't know how. I mean, it's a 10-second
Well, it depends.
conversation.
You could break
but,
that down
People are
into a
fascinated
series.
by that shit.
It depends. It depends how complicated it is that you. All right, we can't
Right.
talk. We can't call it what do we know or what do I know because there's fucking like 1,000 of those. Just murder.
We'll murder them all.
but
We'll
there's-
just take it,
The
then
problem
have our
is,
own.
it's like a library. The books still
murder
exist.
them all. They're done. Then it gives me a lot of shit to talk about. Yeah. Then we'll have weeks and weeks of stuff to talk. Then we murdered this guy. His podcast sucked. Then we murdered this other guy.
Yeah, you don't know.
And
nothing.
when I killed him,
This
I
is
was like,
how we
"See, you don't
do
know
it.
shit."
What
And then
do
that was
you
it.
know? You don't know.
Yeah.
How to do
Boom.
nothing.
Bam.
Well, okay, so it doesn't sound like we really nailed down a lot of structure potentially. But we will need something. We will need something that makes people want to come back, right? So if you look at why people came to mind in the first place, and there were a lot, because it was connected to Rogan. So they were already listening to Joe Rogan, and now they get to listen to me talk about what I liked about it, right? So a far more successful. Yeah, but you know what? People
Sounds
listen to
fucking terrible.
right?
Sounds boring.
And the other guys that do it, the Canadian guys that talk
Yeah.
a fuck ton, they talk for like 3 hours once a week. They are getting 200,000 plus downloads a month. So that is a legit massive podcast. I don't know how the hell they've managed it because they sound like morons to me, but they're kind of entertaining, you know. And I think that it's like non-threatening, dumb talk, kind of like what Rogan creates. But there's a reason for people to go back to it, you know. It's like it's related to something else.
I mean, our little blog picture or whatever that is can just be my
Just your
face.
face.
That'll get us a lot of likes and followers.
All right, well,
Yeah, because I'm so pretty.
does that work?
So
Remember,
pretty.
it's a podcast. They
So
don't see your
pretty.
face, so that seems strange. It'd be like 2 hot chicks, but then you just have to listen to them. That sounds like the worst combination
terrible,
of
terrible.
anything. Yeah, that is absolutely.
Oh my God.
just the worst
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, you're scrolling through podcasts and
It's like
two
that
hot
Einstein
chicks.
joke
Oh,
where
skip.
Einstein meets Marilyn Monroe.
3 hot chicks.
And Marilyn
Skip.
Monroe's like, wow,
Yeah.
imagine what it would be like if we had
Yeah.
a kid. And he was like, what do you mean? What happens if it had your brain and my body? It's like there's multiple outcomes. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. Honestly, like if we did like a bit of a market breakdown, right? That's not a bad idea. Like there will be like market dudes out there that will be into that, and you don't have to be a professional. You're just throwing down your 2 cents. You're saying what you think is kind of happening and maybe why. And do it maybe in the sense of like, I'll ask questions because I won't know shit about how all that works. So it just kind of like, it's a bit of a like little fun tutorial. Right. It's something that you follow anyway. Then we cover like some national news, right? Try not to make it too political, but I guess it doesn't really matter, But generally people have a tendency to go like far left or far right when they start talking about any politics. That's just, it's just how people are.
Well, that's the problem with everything right now is if you don't hear something that you absolutely agree with or absolutely disagree with, it just becomes ambiguous nonsense in the middle. But that's the majority of thinkers. The majority of people are just like in the middle. They have a little bit of ideas from this side, a little bit of ideas from that side, but they're bombarded constantly with talking heads and think tank telling them that they need to think this. It's amazing to me how many people, just on my social media feed, if they believe in one thing on this party platform, they literally believe all of it. And if they believe on the other side, they believe all of it. There's no in between. It's not like, I took 10 things from this side and 6 things from this side, and this is what I think personally. It's like they have to think everything
what I'm
or
saying
nothing.
Is like,
and then it all has to be extreme.
Like this guy's an idiot, this guy's the dumbest. Like it doesn't have. They're not really. They're fucking people and politicians. They have good jobs. They got in excellent positions. You don't have to like Bernie Sanders, but fuck me, in 100 lifetimes, he's a better politician than you'll ever be. It just is. Like they got to really difficult spots. And people listen to him. So it's like when we talk about those sorts of things, just as like in the same way you would listen to yourself, it's better if you just have like the opinion of what the people are doing. You can say, look, this doesn't really make sense to me, but people listening will like him, some. And as soon as they hear you say he's a fucking dumb idiot, like that's it. It just closes all those people off. And it's not just about getting viewers, but it's also about making some content that generally people will want to listen to, or that you would want to listen to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I call people on both sides.
Yeah, you can do that.
All the time, because a lot of them are on both sides. And Bernie was not necessarily one of them. I just said he was a communist.
It was just an example.
I didn't say he was an idiot.
It's just an example of speech that's way more extreme. Right. And it is good to be free on these things, but look, trust me, free is not always the best way to be. It's great to be free if you have a good way of speaking, right? But if you're just free and it's just coming out like, what the fuck is this guy? Like, all of a sudden, it's like when you get a bunch of beers in someone. Yeah, they're free, but you get to really learn what's ticking inside their head, and you're like, that fucker's out of his mind. Right?
Yeah. That's why I haven't drank for 20 years, so I'm already out of my mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just say whatever the fuck I think.
Mean, it does
kind of like Carlin.
Environments, and this is one where it's good to just kind of have like a bit of balance. So we could do some market stuff.
All right, so let's leave it.
Let's cool if we cover that. We can do kind of break that into like some national news stuff, because you stay up on the news, like you know what's going on there, right? Right. So that's 2 things that covers a lot of like the U.S. Anything else? Why not? Let's throw sports in.
We got to talk some sports,
but it's nice to have categories. These people have to come back. We can't just talk about everything. If you want to sprinkle in science, if you want to sprinkle in some other shit, maybe we have a 4th category that's like, what the fuck Jay and Adam have been thinking about this week. But there's gonna be there are some things that people will want to come back to every week. There has to be some knowledge in there in some way. Yeah,
Pikey.
Exactly, Pikey.
Pikey
But you'll
health
run out of
tips
those real fast.
from
Like,
Jay.
Yeah, but you can't.
Oh,
like,
dude,
you
I
can't
can talk
pop
about
in every
health shit
week and be
forever,
like,
you know that.
spirulina,
I'll never run out.
chlorella. It's like, what the fuck? Shut up, hippie. You know what I mean? All right.
I can. It would be great. Great. My health tip of the. All right, so we'll leave. Let's finish at this. I'll give you your, since you are so adamant about the markets. Technical markers, S&P closed under. S&P closed under, I think it, let me look real quick. It closed under 20. Yes, it closed, no, it didn't. At 2304, the technical marker for the S&P is 2300. The next level is around 2000. So the people that follow the Dow, if it goes to the next level under, and it's broken 2300 but hasn't closed under 2300 yet, the next number would be under that 2,000 would be about 16,000, I think, for the Dow. I think the other big thing to watch is, a lot of this stuff, if you look at old market ideas, buy the rumor, sell the news, a lot of this stuff is baked into the cake already, as the market has already digested a lot of these worst case scenarios, but we don't know what those worst case scenarios really are yet. And that'll be interesting. I think if somebody famous or a politician or somebody dies from corona, that's going to really be a big hit. Just like I said a couple weeks ago, wait till somebody famous announces that they have it. The market got hammered the next day. So technically speaking, those are the numbers. And then also just the the feeling on the street. If somebody gets it and dies from it, that's of some significance, that's going to be a big deal.
What
But
about?
so we'll catch up on this again next
all
week.
this
Sound
shit
good,
where,
bro?
like, all these super rich people are now buying tons of stock because it's all tanked. Like, is that in a way fucking the economy? Because sure, the market will, I guess, come back up, but now all these rich fuckers have all the money.
No, you want buyers. That's the problem right now. We haven't gotten to the point yet. It happens so quickly that a lot of people with their investment accounts and their 401ks and everything, they didn't freak and sell. They're just kind of stuck with it in a waiting game. But what if things continue to get worse? There's going to come a point where there's no buyers. And that's what happened to the cryptocurrency market. What was it, 2 years ago when it crashed? And it was funny to see there was, every little, there were 18 and 15 and 20-year-old kids that were invested a couple $1,000 in the crypto market that had never understood what a market really looks like and understood that, like, when there's no buyers, what does that mean? And that's what happened when the crash happened, when Bitcoin hit 20,000, and then there just were no buyers once it started selling. So it just kept going. And that's where we'll get right now. There's still some buyers. There's still a lot of people that have that hope that are propping up this market somewhat, but we haven't got to the point where there's no buyers.
Doesn't some group say straight up we're in one? And is that when everyone goes, fuck this, and they sell everything?
No, recession is a technical term based on how much the market has gone down from its highs, and that we've already hit that marker. The question is, do we go into a depression, and how long does that last?
All right,
and
dude.
There's a lot
Love
of
that. Well, this is the first one.
Yep.
This will be like those kombuchas that you've kept in the fridge. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that one that's still sitting in the refrigerator.
Let's end this recording, but
the
then
one and only.
continue
Hopefully, this one doesn't explode.
Thanks, everyone. You're awesome. Cheers, Jay. Great start. Laters.
Fuck off.